All right, so before you go in, action, thank you. Before you go inside a ZBrush, you need to prepare your model. So as you can see, this is my base shape, very basic, not really much to it. But I did flush out the silhouette a little bit, added some extra edge flows to round this part out, and I also added bevels, because inside a ZBrush, if you do not add something that holds the edges, holding edges or bevels or something of that sort, whenever you hit subdivide, it will crush this object down like so. Okay, so you need to make sure that you bevel your edges, add geometry where needed, or you'll lose that silhouette. Next thing, I added a ton of geometry through the body. The reason why I'm doing this is because when you go inside of ZBrush and you hit divide, what's going to happen is it's going to times all your faces edge flow by 4. So imagine this bevel right here, adding 4 edge loops down there, and adding 4 edge loops through there, and doing the same thing horizontally. What part of your model is going to get the most edge flow?
Parts with the loops.
Exactly. The parts with the loops, the parts with the bevels. So the bevels will take all the geometry when you subdivide, if you don't put edge loops through the body to sort of mitigate that effect. Okay? So if I were to, let's say, divide this cake right here, if I were to go to smooth, mesh smooth, you can see that for the most part it evenly distributes my edge flow. This part might take a little bit more than the body does, but for the most part it's fairly even. But if I were to subdivide this, actually that's not a good example because subdividing inside of ZBrush is different. Let me go ahead and insert edge loop tool, multiple edge loops, do it by 4. So if you were to subdivide inside of ZBrush, you're essentially doing this. Adding 4 edge loops here, 4 edge loops here, 4 edge loops here. And then you add 4 edge loops through here. And you can visually see what gets all the edge flow. So you're going to find yourself at 5 million polygons and try to create detail on the body of your cake, and you're getting very blurry artifacting detail. That's because even though you have 5 million polygons, probably 4 million of that is going into the bevels. Okay, so that's why I took my cake and I spread out the edge flow. And the way I did that was using multi-cut tool. So let me go into, whoops, let me Z back here. So if you already have edge flow like this, what you could do is go into top view or side view, use multi-cut, and off of the model, hold down Shift to keep it a straight line, allows you to cut through the entire model. Okay, even if it's through triangles or even empty faces, like faces with holes and stuff like that, it will still cut through the entire model. All right, once I've gotten to this point, where I isolated all the triangles at the tip, I can just go in here with Insert Edge Loop tool and insert it through the body because these are quads. All right, so keep in mind that you can do that inside of multi-cut, using multi-cut. But keep in mind also that multi-cut is a very powerful tool. If you don't use it properly, you'll screw up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this into ZBrush, which I have. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in my image plane to work with. All right, so who here remembers during lecture, how do I bring in a spotlight image? Yes?
Go to the texture.
Yep.
Box, then import.
Okay.
Find your image. Or you can do it in the draw, I think.
Yes, exactly. So let me go ahead, demo, lab, kitchen, reference, dessert. Okay, then what?
And then go back into texture, click the one that you wanted, and go to the farthest one on the left, on the right.
Yep.
Add the spotlight.
Okay. Awesome, dude. Nice work. So, brings up this radial. You're able to scale it down using this radial tool at the top right. Left-click drag to the left, shrinks it. Left-click drag to the right, or pen stroke drag to the left and right to increase and decrease its size. Okay, and what I usually do is grab within the circle and I move it over to the top left. so I can use it strictly as a reference image. Okay, I don't want to project any detail from this directly onto the model. I'm just going to use this as reference. All right, so starting out, if I were to draw detail on this object right off the bat, it doesn't let me. Can anybody tell me why? Yes. Exactly. So we need to turn off spotlight projection from the spotlight image. And to do that, I go to Brush, Samples, Spotlight Projection, and then click that off. Once again, Brush, Samples, Spotlight Projection, turn that off. And now I'm able to draw in my model. Okay, is there any questions on anything I went over thus far? Should be pretty straightforward. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit divide a couple times, get the maximum geometry I would like to use for this. 3 million sounds good because if I were to divide it again, it would be 12 million. So I'm sitting pretty where I am now, and I'm going to go ahead and mask this part of the cake off. Okay, so to mask off, hold down Control and off to the side, left click or pen stroke drag, and I'm going to mask off this area. Next, I'm going to mask off each one of these in between layers. Okay, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a middle one, just as a marker. Hold down Control and Alt, and drag, takes away from a mask. Okay, so Control, left click drag, adds to a mask, Control Alt, drag, takes away. Okay, after I've done that, who can tell me how to reverse a mask? Okay. Yes, so Control, tap in negative space, and that reverses the mask. And who can tell me why I want to reverse the mask? Yes. Unmask portion. Yes, there you go. So the reason why I want to reverse the mask is because the area that is masked, I won't be able to draw detail on there. I want to draw detail on the area that is not masked. Okay, so to do that, I reverse the mask. And instead of going in here using a standard brush to draw in, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use a universal deformation tool under the Deformation tab, and I'm going to evenly deflate parts of this model inwards on itself. I'm going to do it equally on the entire model at one time. And the parts that are masked will have no influence whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and go into your Deformation tab on the right side under Tool, Deformation, and left-click drag the Inflate slider to the left. And I'm not going to go too far with it, just enough to show that there's an impression. Hold down Control, left-click drag in negative space, and it creates that impression for me. Afterwards, so it's not so sharp, you can go in here and start to smooth this part out. But I want to smooth it out evenly on both sides at one time, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on symmetry. To do that, go to Transform, go down to Activate Symmetry, or press X on your keyboard, and you need to make sure you're on the right axis. So it looks like I'm on the wrong axis. Let me change it, Transform, Activate Symmetry, switch it from X to Z. I should have red dots on both sides of my model, which I do. Let me actually change my material so it's a lot easier to see. All right, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and while you're holding down Shift, you can see your information at the top here changing. That's because holding down Shift actually accesses a new brush. A new brush has new attributes, different attributes than the brush I was currently on a minute ago. Okay, so the smooth brush has 100% Z intensity. So if I were to smooth this, it's actually not too bad because I have a ton of geometry, but it would smooth it way more than, let's say, if it was at 25, which is what my standard brush was at. All right, so I'm going to actually keep it at 100 because with all that extra geometry, it doesn't deform it too badly. And I'm going to hold down Shift and smooth this out. So it's not too sharp. And honestly, I kind of screwed up already. Let me Z back. While I have it masked, I want to go ahead and create the detail for this part, so I don't have to mask it all over again. Okay, so with my standard brush, I'm going to switch my stroke to drag rectangle, and I'm going to go to my alpha. Now, keep in mind you can import your own alpha. For expediency's sake, I'm just going to use one of the alphas inside here. But if you go online or go into your texture itself, you can crop out a swatch of, let's say, the I don't know what you would call it, the cake part of the cake, the texture, and you can actually import that swatch that you save out into the alpha menu and use that as an alpha. Okay, let me see if I actually have one alpha. Yeah, I do have one. All right, and then you save it as a PSD, and then you bring it into the scene. And as you can see, it plugs it in right into my alpha menu. Now, creating an alpha like this, let me go into Photoshop. Let me open, actually. Desktop, references, cake, reference, dessert. And I actually didn't use this cake's reference to pull off a swatch because there's not a lot of information. So I went ahead and went online and found a different cake, but pretty much the same texture. And inside here, what I did was I used the crop tool on the right side, which is the picture frame clacker icon. And from here, I'm going to hold down Shift as I draw out my box inside of my screen. The reason why I'm holding down Shift is to keep it a square image. Pretty much inside of ZBrush, it takes square images better than it takes, odd-shaped images. If it was a rectangle, if I brought a rectangle texture inside of ZBrush, what will happen are one of two things. One, it'll cut off the ends of my reference or whatever I create out of this. It'll cut off the edges, and those parts of the image might be parts that I wanted to use. Or it will swatch my image. So it will swatch it down and will skew whatever textures that I create. Okay, so I do not want that to happen. I want the detail I pull out of Photoshop to be exactly the same exact detail as I put into ZBrush. So I'm going to go ahead, hold down Shift, scale this up, hit Enter, and when you save this out, you want to save it as either a JPEG or a PSD. It doesn't really do, ZBrush doesn't do well pulling in PNGs, TIFFs, or anything like that. So PSDs or JPEGs. Also keep in mind with JPEGs, if its image mode is set to grayscale or anything besides RGB, you're going to have an error. Honestly, I would just stick with Photoshop files, PSDs. Okay? ZBrush seems to have no issue with those. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save. Go to Alpha, and I'm just going to create cake body 1. I'm going to save it as a JPEG. I know I'm going against my rules, but I just want to assure you that it does take JPEGs. Bless you. So I'm going to go to Alpha, Import, and I'm going to do cake body 1, hit Open, and you see it pulls it over here. But if I were to drag that cake body in, you can see that it creates a defined border. And that's because there's no alpha on the outside of my model. Who here can tell me what part of an alpha is transparent and what part of an alpha is opaque?
Yes, the black part is
just like a mask.
Yeah.
So an alpha is just like a mask. It goes from dark channels to light channels. If it's completely black, it is transparent. So if I were to adjust my image inside of Photoshop where it has a radial around it going towards the middle with the outer edges being just 100% black, then the outside edges will be transparent, while at the same time it starts to taper in, allowing you to gradually reveal detail. Okay, so let me go ahead inside of ZBrush, or Photoshop here. So inside of Photoshop, I'm going to first go into my background layer, double click it to take off this lock. And I'm going to create a brand new layer on top of it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my gradient tool, which is this icon on the right side, which looks like a gradient or a ramp. And by default, it probably doesn't look like this. It probably either has a paint bucket tool or something of that sort. If you have either paint bucket or 3D material drop tool, just hold down that icon and it should reveal the gradient tool. I'm going to click that, and at the top left, you'll see different types of gradients. I want the one that looks like a circle, and I want to go into my colors and change this to black and white. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start it off at the middle and see my result. So you can see that it's pretty good. One issue that I'm having is that we have a lot of gray area. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have almost like a hill for a texture. So this might be a little too harsh. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to adjust this by clicking here and creating a new color. And I'm going to turn this white. And I'm just going to push back that gradient so I have more light channels. All right, hit OK. And I'm going to, from the middle, drag outwards. And there you go. So I have more of my texture that will come out flat on my model, but still have a gradient to transparent. All right, after you do that, you can go to your filters, which is on the right side. It should say normal. You can switch this to multiply, and it should highlight the area of your texture that is in the white areas. Okay? And then you save this as a PSD, and you import that into Photoshop. Now, you can desaturate it here, but when you bring in something as an alpha into ZBrush, it automatically desaturates everything for you. So you don't even have to worry about that part. Cool, so I already have one created, which is this brush right here. And from here, I'm going to Z back. Oops. And I'm going to go ahead and start to draw that on. But it's a little too harsh. I'm going to take the Z intensity down to about 10. And drag it in. Once again, that's using my drag rectangle stroke with an alpha. And I'm just going to bring this in gradually. And don't forget the bottom. Don't really see the bottom, but might as well since you're here. All right, and now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and reverse this mask by holding down Control and tapping. And this part, I'm just going to smooth out. Is there any questions about Photoshop before I move on from this point? Any at all? Does anybody need me to go over the gradients, how to create the gradient again? Raise your hand. Yeah?
Can you go over the part where you separate, like, front to back?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go back to Photoshop. So let me Z back here. So to crop out, I'm using my crop tool, which is this icon here. It looks like a picture frame. Click on that. And inside your viewport, hold down Shift. And it allows you to crop out a perfect square image. And then hit Enter. And from here, you're going to create the radial and all that. Did anybody need me to go over the radial again? Even if you didn't need me to, I'm going to do it again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a layer. And I'm going to select the gradient tool, which is this icon here. If it's not that icon, it's probably Paint Bucket. Just hold on that icon, and it will reveal the gradient tool. At the top left, I'm going to select the circle gradients and go into my colors, and I'm going to create another anchor at the bottom. Pull it all the way to the left, make it white, and that'll allow me to have more of my white channel poking out. And pretty much push back the gradient hill going from light to dark. Okay, after you do that, you hit OK. Then from the middle of your image, drag it out to the outer edge, and there you go. Once you do that, you're going to switch your filter from normal to multiply. And that's it. Then you save it, bring it inside ZBrush as an alpha. All right, so let's go in here, and now we're up to creating the icing. So since I already have a mask on this part of my cake, I don't really have to worry about accidentally drawing on that part. So I have free roam to draw on the icing. Now to create these really sharp streaks across the surface of the icing, I'm going to use normally a tool that you would create to create divots, but you can also create sharp details coming out of your model as well. I'm going to use the damn standard brush, BDS, and I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm also going to turn off symmetry, and this allows me to create a sharp streak going down my model. All right, but you can also see that it's not exactly, I'm not looking for exact when creating these streaks, but a tool, an ability that will allow you to get a little bit more control when creating these streaks is called the lazy mouse. I believe I went over that last lecture, but let's go over it one more time. So to toggle on lazy mouse on my damn standard brush, I'm going to go to stroke, lazy mouse, and I'm going to, by default it's turned on, but I'm going to go ahead and increase my lazy radius, and in doing that, it creates a tail at the end of my brush. And the tail allows me to course correct on the fly before I actually pull down detail. So I can go around in this area before actually creating detail. It's only when I get to a certain point where it starts to create detail on it. Okay, so like I said, this is a great way to create precise detail, patterns, stuff like that, as I mentioned in lecture. But it looks like it's a little too sharp, so I'm going to go ahead and bring down the Z intensity. And allow me to create a streak like that. This actually might be a little too light, but you know what, we're just going to go with it. Okay, let's see. Increasing my draw size. And then do the same thing along the top. Hold down Alt. And if you ever get these sort of issues, that's because of my, my poly count, my edge flow. So you might want to go back and fix that, but honestly it's not too bad. It's hardly noticeable, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, and there's my cake. Cool. I could spend another hour, be a little bit more precise with the icing and stuff like that, but this is just a demonstration. Is there any questions on anything I went over? Anything at all? Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on the roasted chicken, if there's no other questions. All right, so let me switch this out and show you the roasted chicken blocking I got. From this distance, it looks decent, but if we look very closely, it's just a bunch of spheres. Okay, so pretty much what I did is I went in here, used the image planes, and approximated the shape of the chicken. Okay, so its form, its shape, all that. Once I got to about here, I exported it out. Like I said, I don't want to put too much effort into creating the block in, just pretty much what you learned inside of 3DF. You guys remember those matching up to the silhouettes lecture activities you did? That's pretty much what this is. And I matched it up, exported it out. Let me switch to it, and here it is. Now, by default, it doesn't look like a lot of detail, but once I Dynamesh it together, that's where the detail comes in. But let me actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go ahead and import my image in here. Press Z to bring up your radial. And I'm going to delete this image by hitting the delete icon at the bottom right. I'm going to go to texture, And I'm going to go ahead and load a spotlight image that I already created for this project. Save some time. And reference compilation. Oops. Import. Select that image. And then add the spotlight. So you can see that the area that was black is automatically transparent. It's because I set this up inside of Photoshop to make sure that just the area around the image, the actual chicken pieces, chicken textures, were actually visible. So you can set your image plane up inside of Photoshop before taking it into ZBrush. So to get out of this radial, press Z, and I'm going to use this reference to work on my model. But before I do that, starting off, this object is comprised of multiple parts, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to work on this chicken as a whole. The great thing about this method is you can, little by little, start to Dynamesh this stuff together. So as I create a wing, I can Dynamesh that part into the body, etc. and so forth. And the advantage of something like this is once I create the detail on one wing, I'm able to duplicate it, mirror it over to the other side, same thing for the legs, and then eventually Dynamesh it all into the body together. Okay, so starting out, I'm going to go ahead and work on the wing. So, yeah, let's turn that off so I don't get any more notifications. All right, so going to subtool, there's a couple ways you can separate out this model. One way is to go to your subtool menu, split, and then split to parts. Now, if you wanted to keep this object as one piece and work on it, you can always just use polygroups by going to polygroups and doing auto groups. So if I went to polygroups, did auto groups, it doesn't look like there's any change, but if I did Shift F, which is polyframe mode, you can see that all these are different colors. It's pretty much indicating that, yes, these are all separate objects. And as separate objects, I'm able to, if I hold down Control, Shift, and then click on one of these parts, it'll hide everything else. Control Shift in negative and click in negative space will unhide everything. This allows you to work on specific parts of your model at a time. Okay, and you can do it that way, or you can just go into Subtool, Split to Parts. This is not an undoable operation. Press OK to continue or cancel to abort. Pretty much simply stating what if I were to hit OK, I would lose all my history, and I would also lose the ability to Z back. Hence, no more history. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and it splits everything into separate parts. And I can switch between the parts by holding down Alt and clicking on that part. If I was dealing with a whole object and clicking on separate polygroups to hide and to show things, it would be Shift and Alt. But switching between different subtools, it's just Alt and click. Alright, so let me get my wing here, and I'm going to go ahead and hide everything else. I'm going to go ahead and press Z to bring up my image again, scale it up. So I got the wing area. And I'm going to go ahead and create some of the detail using the Move brush. So I can divide at this point if I wanted to, but I'm going to see how far I can get using the geometry I currently have. Shift F to turn off polyframe. Going to divide a couple times. B, S, H is the snake hook brush. So once again, B, S, H. And the snake hook brush works similarly to the move brush, but this allows you to move part of your geometry from a point to create this part of your wing. And as you can see, it's starting to break down in this area. And when I Dynamesh that, it'll fix that area, and which I will do in a little while. So standard brush, hold down, whoops, let's switch this back to freehand, turn off my alpha, and I'm just going to shape this out. And BPI, once again, BPI is your pinch brush, and using the pinch brush is going to pinch this down to a point. All right, let me go to the next section. So let me go ahead and divide this a few times. Use the move brush, BMV, and I'm just going to line this up a little bit. Damn standard brush. Actually, this is just regular standard brush, my bad. So not too much there. Let's go to the next part. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this all together. So show you how Dynamesh works. I'm going to go ahead and merge down these three pieces, selecting the top part, and then going down to merge, which is under subtool, merge, and then merge down. It's going to tell me it's an undoable process. I'm just going to hit OK, merge again. And now, going into geometry, I'm going to go into Dynamesh, and I'm going to hit Dynamesh. By default, your resolution is 128, but 128 is pretty much default resolution. You can decrease that and increase it as you need it, but I really don't know what's going to really happen here if I were to Dynamesh it now, so it's not a big deal to me. So I'm going to hit Dynamesh and see where we're at. But as you can see, this is still kind of rigid on the arm here, on the shoulder. So I'm going to just divide it a couple times. So whenever I hit Dynamesh, it'll try to keep that smoothness. All right, so 128 is a little too low. Let me go ahead and increase that to 256, and I like to double it. So if it's 128, I like to double it to 256. Same thing, if it's too much geometry, I would half that. So if it was 128, I would go to 64. So I'm going to go 256, Dynamesh. It's going to say, would you like to freeze subdivision level before entering Dynamesh mode? Hit no. And that's better, but it's still having some issues. So I'm going to increase it to 512. Dynamesh, hit no. So that's a lot better. And then I'm going to go ahead and smooth it. And you can see that it's now all attached as one piece. But if we take a look at the edge flow, we see a bunch of bad geometry along the bottom here and along the areas where they connect. So you will get that, and at the very end, you're going to have to retopologize. Now, retopologizing isn't too difficult. It's fairly easy, actually, but there's a lot to it, step process and such. And I will go over that. Is there any questions on Dynamesh thus far? Probably going to go over it some more as I do the rest of the part. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide everything else. Let me go ahead and click the eyeball and then click it again. We'll unhide everything. All right, so I'm going to go over to the leg. And from the leg, I'm going to go ahead and combine these parts together. So I'm going to hide everything besides the leg. This is just to make sure I don't merge the wrong stuff. Okay, so go down to merge, open that up, merge down, merge down, merge down. All right, at this point, you can go ahead and do polygroups again. So polygroups, subtool, polygroups. Subtool comes after. Polygroups, autogroup, and from here, Shift F, you can see it. Shift F again, I'm going to turn it off. Control Shift, click on that part of your model, will hide everything else. So I can go ahead and work on different sections of this. Let me actually go to a different part of my model. Okay, so let me go ahead and actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and Dynamesh this whole thing together. Going to go to Geometry, Divide, 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 and I'm going to set it to 512, and I'm going to go ahead and Dynamesh it. Hit No, makes it one piece, hold down Shift, smooth it out. I'm going to re-Dynamesh it again. And to re-Dynamesh, you hold down Control and marquee drag in negative space. So you do not have to click this button again. So once it's already turned on, hold down Control, marquee drag in negative space to re-Dynamesh. And then it's still a little bit hard to smooth out, so I'm going to take my resolution down to 256, hold down Control, left click drag in negative space, re-Dynamesh, and it becomes easier. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use my move brush, shape this out. Actually, I think I did it backwards. Okay. Okay. Pretty much just adding a little bit of the anatomy, nothing too drastic here. Until I start getting into the skin detail and stuff like that, I don't really care too much about the tertiary detail on this model. I want this all to be combined as one piece when I start doing the skin. Okay. Using the inflate brush, just puff this out a little bit. Damp standard brush to emphasize the crease. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and unhide the rest again. Subtool, hit the eyeball, and now I have it on both sides. And instead of having to do that detail again on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. Go down to Deformation, and I'm going to mirror it to the other side. Then I'm going to go ahead and delete that part of my model. So I'm going to go into my subtools. Actually, first I'm going to hide the duplicate. So let's hide that part that I duplicated just a minute ago. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all these parts on the right side. So select your subtool in their subtool menu and delete. Always OK. Delete, delete, and be careful as you do this. You do not want to delete something you want to keep. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and unhide that part of the leg. And as for the wing, hold down Alt, click it, duplicate, go down to mirror, and mirror it over to the other side as well. Okay, so last part, the torso. I'm going to go ahead and subdivide this a couple times. Standard brush. Push this part in a little bit. Sorry to all those vegans out there. Alright, so let's go in here. Creating the rib cage, chest cavity there. Okay, I could actually have symmetry turned on at this point. Hotkey for symmetry is X. And I'm just going to puff out the sides, smooth this out, create the tail. Actually, first create the scapula, hips, and the tail. I'm going to go ahead and mask that area off. Reverse it by holding down Control and tapping negative space, and I'm going to use the snake hook brush, BSH. Snake hook, and smooth it out. Okay. Alright, so let's say for the most part, the base shape, secondary, and primary details are all done. There's a lot more I could do. I could sculpt the wrinkles in here and stuff like that, but you know what? Let's go ahead and Dynamesh this all together. Alright, so I'm going to go down to Merge Down. Make sure you're on the top subtool. Merge down, and merge down, merge down. Going to subdivide this one time, and I'm going to re-Dynamesh it all together. Hold down Control, left click, drag in negative space, but as you can see it didn't work. That's because one or two of those objects were not already Dynamesh, probably because I duplicated and mirrored. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Dynamesh. The mesh has multiple subdivisions, blah, 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 blah. Always no. And it's a little low. So I'm going to go ahead and up it to 56. Dynamesh again. Hit no. When it asks you to freeze. And we can go ahead and start to smooth these areas out. And have it as one object. And as you need to, re-Dynamesh. And that's pretty much how to create the body of a chicken inside a ZBrush. Pretty easy. After pretty much a lot of detail comes from the wrinkles and stuff like that, so that will take the most time. I do suggest finding yourself some skin alphas, some wrinkle alphas on Google, on pixelogic.com. They have some alphas in there as well. So I would go there, but switching back to the standard brush, going to go to drag rectangle, alpha, import, and I have some alphas I'm going to use myself. So I have wrinkle 1 and wrinkle 2. So wrinkle 1, I'm actually going to go ahead, turn this off. And I'm going to draw some wrinkles in here. It's a little too prominent. Let me take it down to 5. Still reversed. There it goes. Okay, creating a base wrinkle shape to this. Holding down Alt, reversing the direction of my alpha. Okay. Smooth it out a little. All right, next I'm going to switch to my other alpha I brought in. Let's increase the intensity. And let's just, pretty much, if this is your artistic interpretation, I would suggest using reference. And so on and so on and so on and so on. Okay, is there any questions on anything I've done so far with the chicken? Any at all? Don't be shy, guys. This is the one time you'll be able to get questions as you're seeing it. Oh, careful. Is there any questions on alphas, on Dynameshing, anything whatsoever? Going once? Yes.
Can you explain like the use of Dynamesh again?
Sure, Dynameshing has multiple uses. Number one, let me go ahead and pull this part out of my model. After a certain point, you start losing cohesion of your edge flow and geometry. Dynameshing, holding down control, marquee dragging. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. Let me turn it on. Pretty much reconstitute your edge flow, so you have more geometry to work off of. It's almost like the best way to interpret it is, it's almost like when you're working with sculpting and you're running out of clay, trying to pull out a character's leg or head or arms or something like that, and you glob on there. That's essentially what Dynamesh is. It's allowing you to have more clay to work with in your sculpt. It also has the ability to allow you to fuse parts, different models together. So if it's like you saw, I started off with 12 or so spheres, and then I was able to just Dynamesh them all into one single mesh. And that's that ability too. So like I said, you could start off with just a block-out shape of multiple pieces, just to accommodate the shape and silhouette of your object, and then at the end you can just Dynamesh it all together and smooth it out so it looks like one piece, which it does become one piece. Okay? I'm not going to go too much into the detail because, like I said, that's doing the detail. Okay, that's the fun part, and I want you guys to have fun with that. But to show you the tools, next thing I'm going to show you is how to retopologize this. So I'm going to create a version of the Dynamesh mesh I just showed you, and I'm going to use a tool called ZRemesher inside of Zbrush to create fixed edge flow. Now, the issue with ZRemesher is it loses all the detail that you created. So I'm going to use a specific technique to be able to project the detail from your Dynamesh mesh onto your ZRemesher mesh. Okay? Mesh. Right. So let me go through it one by one. Try not to take too long here. So let me Z back. And I think I have enough detail where I can see it if I were to project it onto my model. So actually, let me go ahead and divide this a few times. Let me Dynamesh this with 512. Let's have more geometry to work with. All right, so if we go into our subtool menu, you can see that we have one subtool. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. So duplicating it, of course, will create a duplicate. And from this duplicate, you can see our edge flow is crap right now. It's very tiny and triangles and such. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to Geometry, ZRemesher right underneath Dynamesh. And there's the ZRemesher button. But you have to keep in mind the target poly count. And now your first subdivision level should be as low as it possibly can go. 5, setting it to 5, is roughly telling it try to reach 5,000 polygons. Having it set to adaptive, ADAP, means that it probably will try to go for 5,000, but if it needs extra geometry, it will create that extra geometry. So my hypothesis, if I were to ZRemesh this right now, it'd probably end up about 10,000 polygons. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. Hit ZRemesher. And depending on how much geometry you have, this might take a little bit of time. Okay, so what it does is it fixes your edge flow based off of the detail of the contours of the object. So I have a leg here, I have the torso here. It'll try to look at the changes in silhouette and create proper edge flow from that. Granted, when you're doing characters and stuff like that, we have more intricate features like chicken here, but you know, eyes and mouth and ears, so we'll need proper edge flow around those areas of our body. Something like this, it's not going to deform, so we don't have to worry about it. We want to have proper edge flow, quads, and whatnot, but when you're dealing with a deformable character, ZRemesher might be a great way to get you to about 80% there, but since it's following the contours of the shape and silhouette, it might not perfectly create loops where you want it. Loops that should be around the arms, loops that should be around the eyes, and stuff like that for proper deformation. So, ZRemeshed. I'm going to hide my high res or my Dynamesh, and this is my ZRemeshed object. Shift F, you can see the edge flow. Edge flow is a lot better. I don't see any triangles. I do see some diamond junctions, which aren't a bad thing, seeing as how this is an object that's not going to be moving around or doing a little dance. So, since it's not, this is perfect for what I want to do. But it is a little bit high. We're at about 12,000 active points. For a prop, that's a tad too high. So what you can do is ZRemesh it again. So it's at 12,000. I'm going to try to shoot for 2, which will probably set me up to about 5 or 6. And it still keeps my silhouette. That's pretty much what I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for the shape. So long as let's say if I unhide my high res, so long as my low res or ZRemeshed mesh is still matching the silhouette of my Dynamesh mesh adequately, that's perfectly fine. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for the low res or ZRemesh object to match the detail, because we're trying to just, ZRemesh just gets you the edge flow and gets you the shape, the primary and secondary details for the most part. So how do we get the tertiary details onto our model? That's the question. So to do that, we need to unhide both our models, and just so that we can see the detail actually being projected onto our ZRemesh mesh. I hate saying that over and over and over again. We're going to go ahead and go into our column here, click on solo mode. Now they're both still active. If I switched to one over the other, it will swap them and I can see them. But solo mode allows you only to see the one that you currently have selected. Okay, so solo mode, I'm going to go ahead and divide this a couple times, and under subtool, go to the very bottom, see project, click on that, and I am going to go ahead and project all. So hit project all, and it projects the detail from the high res onto our ZRemesh object. So there's a high res detail on the retopologized mesh. I'm going to divide again, and I'm going to project again. And you should do this step by step. The reason why is your Dynamesh silhouette or shape, due to the tertiary details, wrinkles and stuff like that, don't exactly match up to the shape of your object. And if we were to subdivide this to the point where our ZRemesh mesh has millions of polygons, if I were to try to project this detail from the Dynamesh onto the millions of polygons, there's more of a chance that there will be an issue. So it's a very good process to gradually project the detail on there. So as I divide, I project. So don't go all the way to the highest subdivision level and hit project. It should be a step process. Okay, the last one will take the longest amount of time. But as you can see, all the detail from our Dynamesh object is now on our ZRemesher object. And we can tell it's the ZRemesher object because of the edge flow. Switch to our Dynamesh object, and there it is. And this is what we can take back into Maya. Go to subdivision level 1, export it out. Go to subdivision level 5, decimate it, export it out. Does anybody need a refresher on decimation? Decimating your objects? No? Cool. So that's pretty much it, guys, on both standard and Dynamesh workflows. If you have any questions, please let me know. I think a lot of you, yes, are tired, so unless a lot of you do this thunderous applause to go over the pineapple on how to do that. Anyone? Yeah? Anyone else? All right, for the rest of you, it's perfectly okay if you want to get back to work, if you're not doing a pineapple or not interested. But if you want to, please pay attention to that, because there's things that I can show you inside of Photoshop to do to create this pattern very quickly. You might look at pineapple and think it's a lot of work, but honestly, it's all surface. It looks like a lot of work, but it's actually not. Okay, and I'll show you how. Here, yes.
Why can't you take the low part of the body without the details, but take that one and then the detail one to...
You can do that. Yeah, it just was since you're already inside the ZBrush, you need to fix it. So, but you don't have to. You can take the Dynamesh object, decimate it, and bring that into Maya directly. You don't have to go through this process, but it's just fine. Cool. Any other questions? Yes.
So, with the ZRemesher, can you do that before you add details? Like right after you do Dynamesh?
Yeah, you can. You can do it, and it's usually preferable, but that's the thing. You lose if the advantage of Dynamesh is, let's say there's something unexpected that you need to pull off the model, and you just don't have enough edge flow to accommodate it. The advantage that Dynamesh has, it allows you to re-Dynamesh and create geometry to do that. Let's say you ZRemesher early, and you realize, crap, I still have this detail I need to do over here, and the ZRemesher object doesn't have the geometry necessary to create that shape. Then you're going to have to re-Dynamesh and then do the ZRemesher process over again. So that's advantage, disadvantage. Okay, any other questions? Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to, like I said, go over how to do the pineapple. Those of you that are interested, pay attention. Those of you who want to just get straight to work, go for it. Like I said, this is extra stuff. And I will go over that as soon as I can find the clip to my pen. Did I drop something? There it is. Got a little time left. Little. Paquito. All right, so let me go ahead and get this image in here. Alright guys, so for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to create the pattern detail on the pineapple, as well as create the leaf detail on the top of the pineapple. So the best way to create the leaf detail is to do the leaves one by one, and not as terrible as it sounds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create one leaf, detail it up, and then duplicate it around. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let me hide my current pineapple. And first things first, I'm going to go ahead and choose a leaf that's best represented. I think this one, no, this one will probably work the best. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with a plane. So creating a poly plane, 90 degrees. I'm going to change my inputs, poly plane, change this to just a 1. Rotate this 90 degrees. And I'm going to go to edge mode. And from here, I'm going to select the edge on top. Okay? And inside of my front view, I'm going to go ahead and extrude. And I'm not trying to be perfect with this shape. Just creating the base form of everything. Inserting edge loop. Shaping this out. I know it's hard to see. But here's my end result. So it's very basic, but at this point, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to actually pull this out a little bit more. And I'm going to start to spread this out so it starts looking a little bit like a leaf. All right, so I'm going to select these parts, scale it out gradually. Until I get roughly the shape of the leaf. Then I'm going to go ahead and create an edge loop down the center. And from here, I'm going to extrude this out a little bit more. Scale it in. And then pull this out. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab the edges on either side of my leaf, here, and here to here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this back, like that. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out for depth. And then smooth the entire thing out. So select the object, shift, right click, soften harden edge, soften edge to soften it. Now as you get through here, some parts might still look a little bit rigid. You can go ahead and fix that, insert edge loop tool, hold down shift, add some shape to it as you need it. And even if you need some, like in the middle there's a minor crease, you can go ahead and bevel it as well. Okay, once you get the shape that you're looking for, I'm going to pull it out a little bit, and I'm going to put the pivot at the center. But first I want to go ahead and delete history and freeze transformations. Hold down D and X, grab the middle circle, and I'm going to snap that to the grid. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to Shift D, rotate this. Let's do 60 degrees. Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. And change it. Actually, let me change my tool settings, axis orientation. Clicking on the 4th tab here, you can go in your tool settings, and under axis orientation, I'm going to change the direction which your manipulator faces. So this was facing down the axis, now it's facing down the direction of the object. Just going to move these out slightly so they're not interpenetrating. And as you're doing this, you can go in here and start to deform some of them by scaling. And then next, I'm going to duplicate this one, pull it forward a little bit, put the pivot back at the center by holding down D and X, snapping it, and I'm going to rotate it a little over here, Control D, rotate it a little bit over here, and I'm going to go ahead and scale those down as well. And then you can scale them out a little bit, just to have it flare out a little bit more, and then pull them in. And once again, just have it overlap like that. Okay, at this point I can actually go in here and delete the rest of these, and I can just worry about one side and duplicate it around as I need to. Okay, duplicate this, scale it down, and continue this pattern. And if you want to change it up a little bit, you can always use soft select, select some verts, soft select, bring it down, rotate it, just have it bend a little bit more. All right, I'm going to select these, group them together, Shift D, rotate this 90 degrees, Shift D, Shift D. And pretty much you see where I'm going with this. Just create duplicates, change them up as you need to so they don't look so uniform. Use soft select as you need to. Eventually, you'll get something that looks like this. And as you get down, you can scale it down, just overall size and stuff like that. Okay, next, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create the detail on the pineapple body itself. You don't have to go super detailed. I've seen some of you actually create edge flow like X patterns, diamonds, and stuff like that on your model. All that stuff can easily be done as textures inside of ZBrush. So do not worry about it. First thing we need to do is create that pattern inside of Photoshop. Just like we did for the cake, I would go ahead, sorry, mosquito, man. Friggin' things suck your blood out. Anyways, okay, so from the fruit, I would crop out a pattern on the body of my pineapple, desaturate it, and as I'm desaturating, I'm also changing the contrast of it. So let me actually do an example. So using the crop tool, select an area, and then you're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate, and from here I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Contrast, and increase the contrast and brightness of everything. So the contrast and detail is very apparent. Okay, once you've done that, then you're going to take it into ZBrush, but there's a few things that you can do. What I wound up doing was I created just one pattern, and the areas around that are just black, so I'm able to just drag that pattern directly onto my model with an alpha. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the pineapple. I'm going to divide this a few times. Divide, 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 divide. Keep going until I get to my maximum. Switch to my standard brush, BST. Import my alpha. And this is a new tool for some of you. It's called radial symmetry. Probably haven't gone over it yet. Those of you that are working on stuff, I do suggest just looking at the monitor right now. So by default, we have normal symmetry, and which pretty much mirrors the detail you do from one side to another. There's another type of symmetry called radial symmetry, which if I were to activate symmetry, turn on radial symmetry, it actually creates multiple radials of that alpha around your model at one time. And doing this will allow me to drag this object into the scene and create a pattern similar to this. And the way I would pull the detail in is I would bring in my first detail, leave a little bit of room, and then aim for the top of the first pattern as your starting point. And as it gets to the top, it will skew. Don't worry about that. It skews on an actual pineapple too. And it comes up to a point, like that. Okay? And then you do the same thing for the bottom going down. And that's pretty much it for that. You can go a little bit more into it, like masking off an area, this part, reversing that mask, and pulling out this detail and stuff like that, but we're running out of time. Okay, everybody, save up for break. Be out of here by 1, be back at 1:40. It will if you continue all this negative talk. For you.
Nah, not today. I'll figure out. I'm not half for.
Doctor put me on a diet.
Did?
Yep. He said if I continued on the way I am, 5 years from now, I'm on dialysis.
What are you eating?
Too much fried foods.
It's not like I eat healthy, but like when I went in for my physical, she was just like, "You feel healthy?" I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "All right, well, eat better, walk some more, you're good."
Doctor put me on a diet. They said that if I continued eating the way I have been, 5 years from now,
amazing, 'cause
5 years from now, I would be on dialysis. Yeah. So
you bike every day, like.
I know.
I do bike every day, but it's not enough.
Do you like bike while you have like just a KFC bucket on your handlebars, or?
If I could, if I was that skilled.
I'm in the process of writing. I've got a couple of questions before. I looked at our last year's review. First of all, did you put anything on a campus or a career view? You know, the little, that whole area where they wanted us to kind of put like videos that we watch. You know, when.
What?
Come over here. You know this. You know, on the career path.
I don't know if that's going to be lab staff or what.
No, I thought it was career path. I needed to know that.
It's supposedly, that place we and then the other thing was,
So it's like that's a good thing, I guess. So like for the work I have, and I asked him about transitioning those classes, and he's like, we don't know yet. They're trying, but see, to me it's there's no trying. Whoever is in sketching, they've done that. Then you have the students on here. You go, these people, I've made a correlated list of these students are going to be transitioned into these courses. That makes sense. Put them in, but it's not that difficult. It's not like, you're trying to figure out how to, thread a needle, you know what I mean, like with, rope and a needle. You know what I mean? It's like pretty easy. It's like, you do that, it's like, exactly, you find it.
Not much. Just showing you what the combined looks like so far. Beautiful, right? Beautiful, huh? Well, that's Chad's part. He didn't do anything. So, at least
Did you get that from Chad, or that was
no,
just you?
that's because I couldn't get them.
Okay.
But yeah, so Marcus's area, my area, you can zoom in. There's details, panels from Marcus. Did some panels on mine as well. I didn't go as nuanced in those panels,
Okay.
just because I assumed that those would get washed over if we Dynamesh it together. But the prominent panels are there.
Are we planning on just Dynameshing it? Is that the?
That's my thought, to have it mesh together properly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was figuring someone was gonna have to go in here and like,
yeah,
basically work the connection points.
right. That's. God damn that thing! Damn this thing. That was the meeting alarm. Shit. Anywho, also, if this looks too woolly, not enough, I also have the Maya file. So perfect, right?
Cool. Yeah.
So, no, I mean pineapple.
You got a pen?
What?
You got a pineapple. Oh. You don't know that thing?
No. What is that?
If I send it to you, you will hate me.
Is it the penis thing?
No, it's a song.
Okay.
Called like pen pineapple.
Because you have a tendency to want to send me penis shit.
I feel like there's a comment there,
So yeah, if you want to sit downstairs and look down, yeah. One is the garage and one's my living room. Main thing.
it's got 75 million views, so you know it's good.
They're cutting out the fun part.
What's the fun part?
She was doing a backstretch.
I'll just Facebook it.
Alright.
So you can watch it at your leisure.
Shimon.
It would be neat to have the first 3 weeks, like actual stuff you find in the garage. And then the last week,
In my garage. My brand new Lamborghini.
Is Chad gonna end doing his part?
I think.
I can grab my laptop about being where I was at, but if he doesn't even.
Yeah. So
Alright, cool.
this is what we got so far inside of Maya.
Okay.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, so that's what we got inside of Maya. And as for ZBrush, we got the detail and stuff, but of course, Marcus made a good point. He's not, one propeller, you duplicated it out. So, got our areas, Marcus's area, my area with the panels, as well as the sensors and the tires.
You guys are keeping track of your hours, I hope?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, using stopwatch. Let's see here. Also, we got Adams in here. One negative is I wasn't able to get anything from Chad yet. I haven't been able to talk to him lately. So I'll whatever he gets, I'll bring in.
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if it still ain't done.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't like this method, I believe.
Yeah, he has not signed on. I'll be honest. I mean, I think he's kind of almost like use that as his sort of mental, whatever. So,
Okay.
I mean,
If anything, I could take it,
so I gave Marcus mine because I knew
Yeah.
he was gone.
and that's why I feel it's only fair, I suppose, if I take it. And
Yeah.
if Marcus,
So if I would find a way to kind of say, hey, look, if this is not something we're just finishing this because we want to catalog the time.
Yeah.
It took to do it this way,
Mhm.
and then see what the other possibilities and routes are for doing stuff. So I'm going to
Sure.
open up Pete's file before lunch,
Okay.
the one that he sent, and then just see what the scan was and how beat up it is or how good it is. And
Sounds good.
We'll go from there. Cool. Good job. It's nice
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah,
You're helping.
it's a team effort here.
Okay.
You got glitter right. Yeah. Kids.
It's all Frank.
I'd like to say it was a showgirl, but
They make good money.
so anyway, but that'd be a better story, but not the truth.
A story that you can tell a few days before leaving. Leave us with a mystery.
All right.
Changing subject. And 3, 2,
See what you're
1,
leaving me
go.
Was that?
I said, you see what you're leaving me with?
You're believe it or not, diamonds in the rough here. Emphasize the rough.
We'll put you in the streak.
He's gonna be in. Well, on the plus side, he's taking 2 weeks of vacation next month. But
Nah, I was
surprise, you're still working some MCR.
yeah, it's true. You're talking about you? You're going to be doing the lab
No,
as well as lecture? Me?
Well,
I will be doing CDC.
Correct, but Chris is taking some vacation.
Oh.
So
Oh.
you're going to be covering some of this.
How do I cover MCR if I'm doing CDC at the same time?
They're not at the same time.
Oh, I thought they were. When you said, on the same day.
Yeah, they're on the same day. So MCR is actually
Okay.
just before CDC.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Yeah. So
Do I
if
get
you-
overtime that time? Damn you, Adam.
It's
God
not my
damn
fault.
you.
You know who's really gotten good with it? I don't know if you.
You're at your heaviest week is 34 hours,
God.
and that's it's 26 hours of contact. I only give you 4 hours of online that week, or not 4 hours, 2 hours of online that week.
Son of a bitch. Wait a second, I do online? Oh, okay. Only 2 hours?
Yeah.
We don't do 4 hour blocks anymore?
We typically do,
Oh.
but since everything broke down into scheduling in 2 hours, I did that for online as well.
Okay.
And
Looks like I have 4 hours the next week, though.
yeah. One of the problems we run into is only one class is off track
Mhm.
for the right time. So like basically, Saturdays, like it's whoever's working Saturday kind of gets fucked with online support.
That's
In
Oh,
order to
well.
maintain 2-day weekends.
It's true. Do I get a 2-day weekend?
You do.
Oh, sweet.
I think you get a 2-day weekend every week. I can't say that for everybody because like some people actually have Sunday support. Yeah, pretty sure you get a 2-day weekend every week.
Nice. Awesome. Might I will enjoy it.
So that part, so that
Yeah, yeah. Alright, so
Cool.
everything's looking nice, except for that.
You don't have to lie to me, but it's fine.
Well, the tail hitting smooth. There was holes in it.
Yeah, well, part of
Yeah.
it was just.
Yeah. No worries. I was able to fix those holes.
I
Before.
ran into the problem where like,
It's super large and they just don't merge at normal settings.
well, there's that,
Yeah.
and then I was kind of going this route where I was trying to like harvest the scan data
Yeah.
for the surface, and then like I was like probably halfway done, and then I saw what Marcus was doing, and he kind of went the whole other way where he basically was like the scan data is just a rough guess and basically just model the parts, and I was like, well, that's looking way better and a lot cleaner than what I was doing. So then I threw out everything I did and I had to start over.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, no worries. You still got quite a bit done, man. Don't worry about it. I like all that. It's
Thank
looking really good.
That's what I spent
Yeah.
yesterday doing.
I
I got
can
these
tell it looks good.
couple of weird, goofy ass sensors I'm trying to work on now. They're like,
Yeah, I had these sensors, which there's like 50 variations of them, and I chose one.
well, yeah, there's that problem, and then there's like the shape is super, and like nobody takes pictures of the tail.
Oh, what about that?
The video,
Yeah.
when they come back to the tail, they're like, oh, let's look inside, and so it drops down.
All right.
But I mean, I got a couple of pictures, but like, it's kind of slim pickings. There's also a thing like I don't know what they're called. But I guess
It would be nice if the U.S. military gave us some goddamn support.
this would like this.
It's actually a nice image you found.
But like these, like that's like
Right.
goofy thingies. I don't know. It'd be nice if I could figure out, like, get some more shots of it or something.
That's why I suggested to Marcus that I take the wing and all that stuff area, because there's a lot of unknowns there. Those little nuances like that, but
Yeah.
Marcus was a trooper.
And I don't know how precise people are gonna, because like I just kind of fudged that thing,
The fin.
the
Oh.
little hinge.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what it is, but
It's duct tape.
but so I just kind of faked that, and figured like unless you're right up on it, if you're right up on it, it looks like crap. But like if you zoom out so you can see the whole fin, like you can't tell. It's
I
like,
hate to
like,
say it, this is U.S. military probably using this for I don't know, simulations. You know, it's probably they're not looking for a masterpiece.
Yeah. And then I got problems where like I wish we knew like where it was going, because like the little static wicks
Yeah.
are way denser than they should be, considering how tiny they are.
Mhm.
Like
Those are
But-
static wicks.
yeah, I had to look that up. I was like
Oh, okay.
little antennas on wings.
It's like it's almost unrecognizable to what I remember as jets,
yeah.
as planes, and it's like, my God. We have antennas on tails now, and we got sensors, and pretty much it looks like this thing has chicken pox or like pot marks all over it. But those are actually viable objects, technology that the thing uses. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, it's there's this thing on here that I could only identify as possibly the fuel. It's like, I'm like, there's this thing on this other side, which is like, do they use regular or unleaded? I mean, like, or leaded. I mean, it's like, there's this little thing right here, and I don't know what that's for.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what most of the stuff's for.
I
This
probably
thing, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I was like, it's a kind of a square shape with a kind of a square shape and a cylinder.
I feel that's kind of the point of this.
Yeah.
Is that what's the accuracy we can get from the data we have, and I think we might have gone too far with it. I'm thinking that the data, what we could get was that blocking from the data we had inside of Maya.
Yeah, honestly, like before I stopped leveraging the scan data very heavily, I just wanted to take the part I had and just Dynamesh it, and then maybe hit it with polish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I wound up doing. All this detail. This thing was just the front. All this is friggin' Zbrush.
Yeah.
Except for the obvious things like this part that's coming out of it. That's a separate object, but a separate.
Yeah. Did you mesh that stuff, or did you just kind of shove it in?
Nope, shoved it in. So it's all separate parts. Hold on. So all that's separate. And friggin' low res. Thing's bare. Come on, you bastard. Yeah, friggin' bare. I gave myself a marker so I know where shit is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, trying to eyeball that from reference is not good enough. But yeah, aside from marker edge flow, yeah, it's not really anything there.
Nice.
Nope. I'm not going to show Pete that. Fuck. Yeah, that looks like it.
Yeah, that's understandable. I also got a question on mine where I guess we got to see if. But so we got this door here.
Yeah.
There's another door up in there, and I don't know if I'm doing that or in my block out or in the version I gave you. There's like a single-sided mesh tucked up in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the portion of the door that was on my section.
So do you feel that you want to do that part then?
I guess we'll see what.
You know what? How about this? I'll recut it here. You get the door, and then I'll get everything.
Well,
else.
I mean, there's this door, and then so I can just do the door up top.
Okay.
But I don't know where they come together.
Yeah.
But we'll see what Chad's got.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he's got.
Divide and conquer.
There's these little sensors here.
Mm-hmm.
The scan data does not look at all like the pictures of that thing looks like.
Yeah, same here. I have issues like that, like these sensors over here.
Yeah.
They don't even. I don't think the scan data has these prongs, but the examples I saw online do. There is something that comes out, but it doesn't look like this. It looks like cylindrical shapes.
Yeah.
But it shows that it has some sort of like prong coming out of it.
Yeah.
Something. But like I said, the scan data was just cylinders. I don't know.
That's all.
It is. Complain. Blah, 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 blah. Meow, meow, meow,
Somebody's got.
meow, 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 meow,
Yeah.
meow, 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 meow. Oh, the trail makes me deliver.
That's going to be something that you guys got to fair enough to do.
You looking forward to the next one?
Yeah. I mean, looking forward to it like I look forward to every month, I suppose. I mean, I have no change in how I view one month to another. Yeah. It's just what classes am I doing this month? That's the thing. It doesn't bother me as much doing a different class as some others. I just hate the fact I do introduction. I hate intros.
Yeah. You want me to come and do the CBC intro?
That would be funny.
You'll see how super, like, not, like, I got no commands with it. I just, like,
yeah. Well, that's pretty much what you gave me information-wise. Is pretty much what I'm going to regurgitate. Do I have to get into what they're going to be doing week 2, week 3, week 4?
I don't even tell them what they're doing week 1.
Oh, okay.
People like,
they should know?
Well, they have the portal.
Yeah. Okay.
And Marcus goes over that kind of stuff. So, like, I do get questions like, what do we do now? And I'm like, work on your shit. What do you want from me?
All right.
I don't know. I pretty heavily take the. You guys have been in class before.
Yeah,
This isn't a surprise what we're doing.
true.
But yeah, and you can put your spin on it or whatever. But
Yes. My spin is my superior knowledge. Okay.
I think you'll like the class once you kind of get over like what you're supposed to do.
I don't think it'll be much. It's just switching my brain. Take out my MCR brain. But nah, I don't think it'll be much.
On the downside, you are an MCR all of week 1
All of week 1 I'm in MCR?
and CDC.
Oh,
It's an 8-hour day where it's MCR and 8 hours.
gotcha. So it's not just week 4 that I'm in there.
No, it's week 1, and I think you're in there like 1 or 2 other days.
And then last one.
Yeah, so all of week 1, and then Saturday of week 2, but no CDC that day. What's your PTO?
Wait a second. So I'm doing Saturday by myself?
That Saturday, yeah, because both Jared and Chris are on vacation.
Alright. That's fine.
We're doing somebody else?
Nah, I'm good. No, I don't want to inconvenience someone.
I might be in there with you.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's just usually the last day of the week is usually checkoff day.
Yeah.
And it's like strategically perfect.
Oh. Yeah, no, when I was plugging in there,
I'll figure that out.
I will probably be in there with you,
Okay.
but I haven't committed yet because basically
nah,
if somebody
it's-
else is in there with you, it's gonna screw their 2-day
Adam,
weekend.
I can handle it. That's fine.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna have to come into work anyway.
I will not deny the help on that.
You might be in these 2 days too.
Okay. Really?
Um,
Oh, gotcha. Because
Chris is taking PTO,
gotcha.
but I haven't played this yet.
Right. All right. It's cool. Yeah. Starting to shape up to be a shit month. That's all good. Now that I know I have to do both classes.
It's
Isn't
gonna
that
be much
just?
better for MCR that you have to do both though.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Because Chris.
that's true. Oh my God! Just make a pinata already. Little voodoo doll of him. As he comes by the desk, like, who is that? Oh, I don't know. It's just something I picked up at a flea market. And he's like, for some reason my shoulder's been hurting. And there's a pin right there where the shoulder is on that voodoo doll.
Yeah, just random.
Yeah, random. Absolutely random. All right. Well, see ya too, man.
Yeah.
Let me get some coffee.
Are you at classes too?
No, we got that meeting.
Well, yeah, but so you just leave class?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, Jared.
Thank you, Jared.
Well, he's freaking taking off. Taking off next month. So,
Yeah.
Hey, we support each other.
Or whatever he
Any
was
important
saying,
info I need to.
This doesn't make
Oh.
sense. The tangents all over you have all this, and the guy was really upset about it. And I went into lab the next day. It was back when it was CAP, like if you failed, it would go back to
That was the
test.
3-month thing.
And I was like, and he was in tears. He was so pissed off. I'm just gonna start over. I was like, wait. I sat down with him. They did a little thumbnail, kind of staged it, and then I looked at the scene, and I grabbed the camera and I flattened it out, so it was like 100, so everything was really flat. The camera. So
Oh, yeah.
so then I pulled in the little guy. I lifted him off the ground, pulled it really towards the camera, and I staged it where you didn't see the floor anymore. So I took the guy in the chair, put him down, like in real space, he would be like 2 feet into the ground, so his legs are, but you don't see the ground anyway. And then I got rid of all that shit that was in there, half of it. I left like one thing for a foreground element, and then I took the background and I put a lattice on it and warped it, to get rid of the hard angle of the walls, because he had all these lines and the ceiling and all that. And I did all this stuff. It took me like 5 minutes maybe, and he was like, wow, it looks way better. And I was like, yeah, you wouldn't have to do, I go, if you would have sat down and staged it first before you started doing all this shit, then you wouldn't have had to go back and, luckily I was here, otherwise you were ready to do it all over again. You sit down first and design it a little bit.
Right.
You wouldn't have to you would have saved so much time and effort and wasting all this, Sitting down and just looking at it, you know.
Is it cool you'll be handling MCR by yourself from
That's
two?
fine.
Okay.
If you just teach them,
I'll just bullshit my way through. Act like I actually knew it.
Oh, come on. I hate just leaving you hanging like that, man. It's not right.
And they're like, you do that.
Have you seen Guardians yet?
Nope.
It's
really good.
You should know, like, unless Frank took me to go see Guardians, I haven't seen
Yeah, but
Guardians.
you went to see Logan, didn't you?
Hey, that was my one movie for the year. Actually, no, I'm lied. I went to go see Beauty and the Beast. I don't know how I got like 2 movies.
Of all the movies, you saw Beauty and the Beast.
I wanted to go see it.
Oh, okay. Well, same thing with my girlfriend. But it turned out to be pretty good.
It was long.
Was
It
it?
was long.
I didn't feel it. I suppose it was long in the areas where they just meandered.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that, where he tried to murder, what's his name? The father? Like, where'd that come from?
He did that in the first.
No, he didn't. He put him off to an insane asylum. They were carting him off.
Oh yeah. I thought you were talking about like Beast.
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, that mounted up to nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're circling the airfield, and it's like, land this sucker. I'm like, just cart them off. Like, we don't want to be like the animation. We want to be our own thing. And I'm like,
That's the issue. Like the animation was like an hour and a half. Why do you have to add another hour to it?
well, it was that part. It's like, we didn't need that segment.
Also,
Where,
there was an entire song I could.
which one was that?
The one was like the Beast is like running around the castle singing after Belle left.
Yeah. It's because you could tell the CG. It was very bad.
Well, no, just the song was just it wasn't catchy.
Yeah. Emma Watson's song at the very beginning was catchy. I like that one. But I also like the Gaston one, but the thing is animation was better. I can't compare it. It's hard to compare. There's parts of it that were a lot of fun, but I'm just thinking to myself, LeFou, they weren't swinging him back and forth and tossing him into a bunch of guys who wound up brawling with each other. I'm like, there was energy in that. There was no energy in that song, in that song and dance. It was good though. It was good. Just didn't have the energy the animation had. But how can you? It's an animation. They can do whatever the hell they want. I think getting the guy who played Bart from Bart from Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies,
Yeah.
playing as Gaston, I thought that was pretty good. I thought they picked a good actor.
They got the guy who played Legion from Legion.
Oh
to
god,
play the main
The Beast?
The Beast.
I don't even know him. Is that the only thing he's been a part of?
He's done a couple things, but he's always been kind of like a bit player, and you've always heard his like British accent, but like in Legion, he's like really good, and he sounds very.
Oh, okay. The perfect person to put it as the lead, because you don't see his face, I guess. You don't really see him. You hear his voice.
You understand, like, even though I've done this a bunch of times, I have no idea what like, I don't think they understand.
The one thing I feel that they did right to add it in was the emotional connection of Belle's father and mother. Yeah, so that finding out that she had the Black Plague and stuff like that, I thought that was a nice thing. For emotional connection, so you actually feel something.
She should have just been like immaculate conception inside the dad. Just feed her out.
She's I was about to say, what is she, a butt baby? What is going on? He was using the restroom one day and it's like, oh, a baby.
Right, and they're like, it's like, yeah.
I knew something felt odd.
It's not going to be perfect.
That's too much.
Then you start talking about
And then they'll see me, I do
and the spacing and
Yes.
I'll sit there for 10, 15 minutes breaking something down and I'll go, yeah, that looks stupid. I grab it, delete it all. Now,
Yeah.
do it again. It's easier to do it again.
I'm doing the same thing. Just this month, I do a little piece of animation with my class. We break down something simple coming in from one pose into the next.
Right.
So I have a play glass that is broken down one way, and I go, okay, I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. So, and I did it just like you guys were saying. I went and I kind of built it out, and I hit play, and I was just like, that looks stupid. I'm like, well, and again, it was like, okay, well, it's too fast here, it's too straight here, so let me pull this back, let me give it a little more time, let me do this, and I get there.
I think that's actually useful for them to see. I think they really do think that it's like, oh no, you do it right the first time.
Yeah,
No.
they're like, you have to keep going
Who
back
does that?
and going back.
Yeah.
Everybody does that. And I told him the thing about Glenn Keane when he talked at Cal Arts, he was like, for the first 5 years after he became an animator, he said every time a scene was laid on my desk, I thought this is when they're gonna find out I'm a fraud. Like
I feel like you don't have that
he said
feeling.
I always felt like that. Like he's like I'm not really.
I hope they don't realize.
They're gonna
that.
figure out that I'm
Right.
a fraud, and you know what? It was which is funny about that because I always
never
felt
heard
like
that
that
story.
too. Like,
I always did too. I've never heard that story.
and I think that's
Glenn
just,
Keane?
I think it's an artist thing that if you don't have that, then you're dead because you're just like I'm good.
Right.
I'll
No, you should have some uneasiness, especially when you're at a studio. Because
Well, I mean,
you're
in the
surrounded
beginning,
by
when you get older, you get more confident. You know, okay, I've been through this before. I'm not afraid. I know if I fuck it up, I know I
But
can
you're
figure it
still
out.
surrounded by
That's
people
the
who are
thing,
doing
once you're
like
confident enough to know that
ridiculous
you can make decisions to push it in the right direction.
yeah.
But there's also I always had
There's
that little
you're
that
never
little
gonna-
like poke of inspiration.
Another
I
bit
know
part
most of the
actor
time
that came out of nowhere playing in a bunch of big
And
things
that's
now is
why I became
the guy who
when-
played
when I
Yondu
realized
in
I wanted to
Guardians of
it's
the
almost
Galaxy.
like a reckless
What?
abandon.
The guy who played
You're like-
Yondu in Guardians of the
Yeah,
Galaxy, the
I
blue guy
know
with the
this is
mohawk.
gonna
Yeah.
be cool, but I think
I- For a while, you don't see him doing anything, and all like bit parts, like in Replicant, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and all that stuff. But suddenly, you see him in Walking Dead. You see him Guardians of the
he was
Galaxy. I'm like, he wasn't doing anything really before that besides bit. I know, but he went from bit parts to like
You're kind of going like
big, bit parts to big parts all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden,
Oh,
he paid his dues.
He peaked.
He paid.
Peaked at Mallrats.
Well, I've never seen Mulder.
He ate the chocolate covered pretzel.
He's like Liam Neeson. It's like when he got old. That's when he finally got all these parts. Oh my god, I still remember that movie Replicant. Have you ever seen that, the
Nope.
Jean-Claude Van Damme movie?
Energy, and I was like,
He-
okay, well, didn't
I always
know.
thought that he always played just
Like, you're
abusive
just
character
gonna do
parts. I was like, okay, that looks like a wife beater. He can play that.
Working on my own stuff, but then over time, as I kept doing that, some of them came out okay. And then I
It's
got
nice to
better.
see him breaking through and doing more than serious like action dramas.
I'm trying, and I do this.
That's me.
Oh, it was terrible. I shot it, and I looked at it, and I was like, I just grabbed
Throw it
and
away.
chucked it away. I didn't want
So
anyone
nobody
to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was. I did that on a couple other things, but that one stood out. That was the first time I tried that, and I was like, I think I better focus on the basics, you know.
Yeah.
And I did. I gotta get back to watch a movie.
That's
Actually, I'm actually grading. Trying to get caught up as usual.
What are you up to today? My god, that's a lot of detail that goes into it. Michael Rooker, who played Yondu, and showing him getting painted before him actually going on set. Oh my
Yep.
god, this guy.
Huh?
That's
Oh.
a lot of freaking work. I mean, I've seen more done, but I mean, the nuanced details, like they made sure to paint the veins a little bit darker, and it's very interesting. All that crap, man. And he loves it.
like missed calls and nothing. 1-800. Who are these people?
Sounds like somebody released your number to an ad agency.
I know. Let's investigate.
Maybe you're being audited.
I do my taxes right, unlike some people.
I do them right, or I don't do them at all. That's the problem.
What's up?
Can't hear shit.
I'm gonna have you sign.
Okay.
So,
Something for it?
before you go. I'll just
What's that? Oh,
There it is. Never mind. Go. Sign it.
Oh, man.
Okay, I'll just give this to Donna.
alright.
I copied you on the email as well.
Sweet, thank you.
Alright.
Hey.
Yeah, man. That's about the earliest we've ever done it.
I know. Well, I wanted to get it done by you because I thought it probably just would have been like 10 or something like that.
Do we have to get it by Tim, or would it be Adam?
Well, it's next highest.
Yeah.
Adam's not-
Yeah, he's temporary, yeah,
Yeah.
but still. Oh. Is it a little early for me to get my annual review? He's not even answering me on
Original
that.
mystery.
Take a baseball bat to it.
So, so I hear that you would be sliding over to.
CDC for a little while, and Adam can't promise me it's only for next month.
I'm sure you can. So, I'm gonna try to have fun.
Well, I will. No
We
biggie.
can change the pace for you.
I think so.
Am I just going to get like a revolving door of like people?
Well, I'm going to be helping out with MCR as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah, on a few days. Week 1, it'll be me, MCR, then CDC. And then 2 days, and 1 day in week 2, and then 1 day in week 3 when you take off. And Chris Rica takes off. So.
Oh.
Yep. So I got you.
I got you, fam. I got you, fam.
What's Darth Maul doing in Game of Thrones?
Oh, look at you being. Actually, I just got HBO.
Who is he? Because
Oh, he's the Ice King, or yeah.
Very original concept. Very original.
I know, like the guy who plays him is like one of the famous character actors. Like that's always in like makeup and stuff like that. He played the corpse guy.
So he's going to be one of those actors that grows old, and we're going to hear of his passing and not know who the hell he is.
Yeah, but he has like, it's just like, who's that? And they'll be like, oh, he had like 3,000 film credits.
Kind of like, what's his name? The chubby guy, Dom DeLuise.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's like, Dom DeLuise, I know the name, but, oh yeah, he played
And
this.
every Don Bluth movie ever made.
Ever since him and Burt Reynolds had that split up. You don't really know him anymore. Yeah, I'm coming. Hey, what's going on?
I'm gonna continue with the pineapple.
Oh no, the pineapples for the most part. What I went over is how to create it. I wasn't. That's the thing.
Oh,
it
that's
would.
it?
It would take. Yeah, it's it.
Oh,
It would have
okay.
taken a long time to finish it. It probably would have taken another 15 minutes to finish it, but for the most part, the concepts. And let me see what I can do about that.